It's no secret the movies that Marvel have been making since the Infinity Saga are not as good. But Marvel Rivals is very good, on the other hand, and has rekindled my love for many of these characters. We're going to do a tier list of how incredible their personalities and abilities are. Thor, I was tempted to put him in A tier, truthfully, but Thor has to be S tier. Very funny, very noble throughout MCU, and I mean his character, of what I know, he's very, very confident and he's a leader amongst men. Thor's great. I think Chris Hemsworth's performance as Thor as well is very, very inspiring in a lot of ways, as he was able to change the character's personality quite a bit from the first Thor film to what it is now. A bit too funny, though, admittedly, in recent films, but Thor has to be an S tier character. Doctor Strange will put an A tier. The movies are okay. They're incredible to look at. The CGI is sensational. But his sequel, The Multiverse of Madness, I didn't love. I saw it in theaters and was like, this is like kind of weird for me personally. I did like the gimmick, though, at the end of his first film of how he just stuck the villain in an endless time loop, and that's how he ended up winning. But for me, I'm going to put Doctor Strange A tier. Mantis, she's nice. Her personality, I mean, she seems like a pleasant person to be around, but pretty forgettable when you compare her to a lot of the other characters that are here below. So I'll put Mantis in the middle of C tier. I believe there's two Ant-Mans on this list, so we'll put one as the Wasp over there, but if we're just talking about Ant-Man, I really love Paul Rudd. I think the casting director did a fantastic job of picking him to play that character. And his performance makes the character so much more endearing, as well as much funnier than it probably would have been by other actors. So for me, I'm going to put Ant-Man in A tier. Really fun gimmick, and the movies don't take themselves too seriously with a concept of having someone shrink and then grow huge. You can't really take yourself too seriously. So I'll put Ant-Man A tier. Excuse me. Then we have Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel. Honestly, I'm going to put Captain Marvel D tier. I do sympathize with Brie Larson, as the first time she had to play this character was set after the events of when the origin film of the character was. So it was a bit of a, challenge to play a character that's more confident than they would be normally in their own origin story, which you haven't done yet. So all of those things do make it a bit more difficult of a task. But I wish Brie Larson's portrayal of this character was more human feeling. She gives off an energy to me where it feels like she couldn't be bothered, and maybe that's what the director wants in these films, but her arrogance feels too eccentric for me. It is like, makes me not like the character as much, truthfully. I didn't love the first Captain Marvel film either. I thought the Skrull concept was cool of having them being able to be chameleons and look like anyone, but I don't think Captain Marvel's that great personally. Hopefully they make her character better in future films, but for those reasons, I'm going to put her in D tier. Then we have Black Panther, straight to S tier. Rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. You are a legend. He made this character iconic in so many ways, along with Ryan Coogler, the director of the first Black Panther film. Wow, what a story. I absolutely love that Marvel has this film in their universe, and they were able to do such a good job in terms of being faithful to the original subject material. So his fighting style, his powers, his villains, his city, Wakanda, they're all fantastic. I think that Black Panther is unquestionably S tier. Same thing with Iron Man. Iron Man's actually going to go at the top of the list. Wow, this is such a cool character. You can't say Iron Man anymore without mentioning Robert Downey Jr. He's the pioneer of the MCU. The first Iron Man film is one of my favorites. It's fantastic, but I think RDJ just does such a good job of encapsulating the charisma that Iron Man has. You really believe he is this billionaire, playboy, genius, philanthropist, as the Marvel movies say. He's a fantastic character, and I'm going to put Iron Man in S tier. Hulk, another S tier character. How the MCU has handled him since the first Avengers film, I'm not as big of a fan of. I did like him in Thor Ragnarok. That's where this picture is from. But having Hulk, the way they did him, dirty in Avengers Endgame, in my opinion. They nerfed him so much. I wish they had kept him as this maniac, green, huge monster that he was in a lot of the other ones, like Thor Ragnarok, for example, or the first Avengers film. That is the essence of the character. The duality of Bruce Banner's intelligence, having him turn into this, enormous maniac monster who's filled with rage, is what makes this character so good. And for Marvel to get rid of that moving forward doesn't make me like him as much, but the character's got to go into S tier. He's fantastic. Then we have Black Widow here. I think Scarlett Johansson does a good job, truthfully, portraying this character. Gives a confidence to the role with every action she takes. She's believable as well. Truthfully, I did not see the Black Widow film, the solo film. I've seen it in parts, but not in its entirety. So maybe if I watched the entire thing start to finish, I would like her more. But I'm going to put Black Widow here in B tier. A good character, but not a great character. Then we have Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier. For me, I've got to put Bucky in A tier. Really, really cool how Captain America, thought that Bucky was gone. And once he started to come back in the Winter Soldier, the Captain America film, which is arguably a masterpiece, by the way, it made their dynamic so interesting. So for me, I think Bucky Barnes is fantastic, and he's going to go into A tier. But Cap, the man of the hour, is got to go into S tier. Truly, Johnny Appleseed, Johnny-go-lucky. I mean, he's an action figure personified, literally. I love Captain America. The first Captain America film, I think, is a bit underrated and too harshly criticized. He ends up really becoming into the leader that his name would suggest he is throughout the Infinity Saga and Marvel movies. I love Cap. He's great. Do I love him more than Iron Man? That may be a discussion for another video. Drax, hilarious. Dave Bautista was first really bursting onto the scene in Guardians of the Galaxy film, the original, and did not think that he had the comedic timing and acting ability to really pull this role off well, and he completely eradicated any of those complaints against him. He's fantastic, and Drax is a character like many of the Guardians who I did not know before the first film released, and now Drax is going to be a mainstay in pop culture for as long as they're going to be making superhero films for Marvel, in my opinion. So I think Dave Bautista and Drax both are great, and honestly, he's got to be an A tier. Going to keep him out of S, but could be an A tier. Then we have Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye. I think I'm going to put Hawkeye B tier. I do love characters with bow and arrows. Truthfully, he feels probably the most human out of any of the Avengers. But at the same time, when you see adaptations of Hawkeye in, animated TV shows, for example, he's a bit younger. He's a bit, he's a bit wittier. His quips are sharper. I think Jeremy Renner does a good job of playing the spy aspect of Hawkeye's character, but I wish he was a bit more, swashbuckling, if that makes sense. Overall, good character, not a great character in my opinion. Scarlet Witch. I'm going to put Scarlet Witch A tier. I actually liked WandaVision a lot. I think the direction of doing something different in the MCU, of what they went for, worked out really well in my opinion. And Elizabeth Olsen is a very, very solid actress in her own right. She does a great job portraying the tortured nature of this character with having her go through so much throughout the events of the MCU, and thus still moving forward, putting one foot after the other. She's great. Great character, in my opinion, with great backstory. War Machine. If we're talking about Terrence Howard's War Machine in the first Iron Man, probably going to be higher than B tier, but because we are with Don Cheadle, who I think is a great actor in his own right. Hotel Rwanda is a fantastic film. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend. But I think Terrence Howard's portrayal of War Machine is more accurate to a character that I could actually see being friends with Iron Man, whereas Don Cheadle's energy is a lot more stern and by the book, per se. So in that sense, I think I would have preferred Terrence Howard. But at the end of the day, Marvel has their reasons of why they recasted him. So I'll put War Machine in B tier. Groot. It's tough to put Groot any higher than B tier, honestly, just because he simply only says one thing over and over. But at the same time, while only saying one thing, he packs a lot of emotional resonance in the films that he's in. So I'll put Groot B tier. I mean, a funny character with a lot of emotional beats in the MCU films, but just not one that I would prefer to any of these in A or S, personally. Then we'll have the Wasp here. I think the Wasp is fine. The Wasp is C tier, I would say. Oh gosh, the actress's name who plays the Wasp. I want to say Evangeline is her name. Evangeline. I think she does a good job being the yin to Paul Rudd's yang in those films, keeping him grounded and giving him a more perspective of realism in this wacky movie concept. But at the same time, I don't think that it's too memorable of a character. And for those reasons, I'm going to put the Wasp in C tier. Gamora, very good. The first Guardians film where Zoe Saldana is really able to portray the, non-sheltered version of the character, more expressive in her personality, is probably A tier. But with her coming back, with everything that happened with Thanos and her not really remembering anything, definitely gave a completely different character to the one that we knew before. That character, after the events of Infinity War, I would say is B tier, maybe even C. But the first Guardians, Gamora, is probably A, so we'll balance it out and put Gamora in B tier. Rocket Raccoon, fantastic. S tier for Rocket Raccoon, personally. His backstory is so sad, and he's been through so much, arguably one of the more tortured souls of any MCU character. But, yeah, no, I mean, there's really no negatives for me. I think Bradley Cooper was sensational choice to voice this character. He does a great job. You believe the sarcastic comments from him and his violent nature. So for a character that could have been so easily messed up, I think they really did a great job. I love Rocket. He's in S tier. Falcon. What do I think about Falcon? I'm pretty indifferent about Anthony Mackie. I think he's pretty funny overall, but and I can take him seriously as well. But I prefer Bucky Barnes to the Falcon personally. I'll put him in B tier. I'm really curious to see what direction they go with the Falcon, with him taking up the Captain America moniker now, fully in the new film with him and Red Hulk and Harrison Ford. So who knows how that is going to be unless you're watching this video after it's already released. I think they can only really do good things to his character from here unless they really, mess that film up. But I'll put Falcon in B tier. Cool, not great. Spider-Man has got to go at the top of S tier. My favorite and the majority favorite Marvel character for a reason. He is fantastic. I love Peter Parker. I love Miles Morales as well. I love all of the portrayals, truly, that we've gotten of Spider-Man since Sam Raimi's trilogy with Tobey Maguire. Tom Holland does his thing. It took me a little bit to grow into this new MCU portrayal of the character, as I think Tobey gave the character a bit more of an innocence and underdog feel than Tom Holland. As well, Andrew Garfield gave a really, really cool charisma to the Spider-Man aspect, where I think Tobey is great as Peter and Andrew is great as Spider-Man. Tom Holland kind of is not as good as either, but is like the middle ground of both, if that makes sense. I've definitely grown to love his performance of the character more as time has gone on, and I think Spider-Man is fantastic for endless amounts of reasons. Top of S tier. Star-Lord. Before Infinity War, I would have put Star-Lord maybe an A, arguably S, but Infinity War and his ignorance and stupidity, truthfully, really left a bad taste in my mouth for this character. So he was so irritating. I mean, the movie, the snap didn't even have to happen if it wasn't for this man's tomfoolery. So I'm going to put Star-Lord in C. I think he's really cool, but really tough to get over his asinine decision of waking up Thanos from the trance in Infinity War. Then we have Vision. This is an interesting one. I think I'm going to put Vision right in the middle, truthfully. Right in the middle. Cool abilities. Paul Bettany does a good job in terms of giving this character an android feel with his performance. This definitely feels like non-human. It feels like a robot. And as a result, it's a character that has its moments but isn't super memorable and are probably not many people's favorite character. That's how I feel about these Marvel superheroes and where I would rank them in tier list form. How would you change this around? Let me know where you think I messed up in this list. And if you're still watching to this point in the video, I appreciate you so much. Thank you. Like the video, and it would mean a lot to me. As well, subscribe and check out a lot of the other tier lists that I've made on my channel about sports, life, pop culture, movies. I'm into all of those things, and I'll be making more tier lists about them tomorrow and very near in the future. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching again to this point. I'll see you in the next one.